The silent exodus. The excavation drone's lights pierced through 5 centuries of dust and darkness. Ambassador Zixatheta of the Krelvani Empire watched the feed from her command ship, her forearms folded in contemplation. The dead world below had been abandoned for so long that most star charts didn't even mark it anymore. Yet here, buried beneath layers of time and neglect, lay the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. The planet had once been called New Eden by its inhabitants. Now it was just designation KX7749, another lifeless rock orbiting a dying star. But the structures the drones uncovered told a different story. These weren't primitive ruins. They were sophisticated, beautiful even in their decay. The architecture spoke of a species that valued both function and art, strength and grace. Zixatheta's chief archaeologist, a young Krelvani named Veltor, rushed into her chamber. His usually composed demeanor had given way to excitement that made his scales shimmer with bioluminescent patterns. "Ambassador, you need to see this immediately. We found their data vault. It's still active. The discovery would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about its history." As Zixatheta descended to the planet's surface, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking on sacred ground. The data vault was a massive structure, built to last millennia. Its walls were inscribed with symbols that the universal translators struggled to decode. One word appeared repeatedly etched deep into the metal: humanity. The galaxy knew that name from ancient records. Humans had been members of the old Galactic Confederacy 500 years ago. They were remembered as clever traders and diplomats, a young species that showed promise but mysteriously vanished during the first Great Invasion. Most assumed they had been wiped out like so many others when the Devourers came from beyond the galactic rim. But the data vault told a different story. As Veltor activated the ancient system's holographic displays flickered to life. A human figure appeared dressed in what looked like a military uniform. The recording was degraded but still clear enough to understand. The universal translator worked overtime, converting the ancient human language into modern Krelvani. The figure spoke with a calm authority that transcended the centuries. "My name is Admiral Maria Konstantinos, Supreme Commander of the United Earth Defense Fleet. If you are watching this, then our plan has succeeded, and the galaxy has survived. This is our final message." Zixatheta felt her heart slow to a solemn rhythm as the recording continued. The Admiral explained how humanity had discovered the Devourer's weakness. These entities fed on life energy, growing stronger with each world they consumed. The only way to stop them was to lure them away from populated space and trap them in a null space pocket, a region where the laws of physics became fluid and life energy couldn't exist. The human fleet, every ship they had, military and civilian alike, had volunteered for the mission. 10 million souls aboard 50,000 vessels. They knew it was a one-way journey. The null space pocket would trap the Devourers, but it would trap the human fleet as well. The Admiral's next words sent chills through every being watching the recording. "We chose this fate willingly. The galaxy gave us a home among the stars when we were young and afraid. Now in our brief time here we can give something back. We can give you tomorrow. Tell our story not with sadness but with hope. Humanity's light will not fade. We will stand guard in the dark, for as long as it takes." The recording showed the human fleet's final moments. Ships of every size and design, from massive battle cruisers to small family transports, aligned in perfect formation. They opened a rift in space itself, a wound in reality that hurt to look at even in recording. The Devourers, drawn by the concentration of human life force, followed them through. The rift sealed behind them, and both fleets vanished from the galaxy. Veltor discovered more recordings, personal messages from the humans who had chosen to sacrifice themselves. There were farmers and teachers, artists and engineers, children and elders. Each message was a testament to the human spirit. They spoke not of fear or regret, but of love for a galaxy they barely knew, of hope for species they had just met, of faith that their sacrifice would mean something. Word of the discovery spread across the Krelvani Empire and beyond. The Thurian Collective, the Bashari Federation, even the isolationist Kentar Dominion sent representatives to witness the evidence. The galaxy had survived because a young species had given everything to save strangers. Monuments were planned, days of remembrance were declared, and humanity's name was added to the roll of honor in the Galactic Council chambers. 3 months after the discovery, everything changed again. Deep space monitoring stations detected an anomaly at the edge of galactic space. It started as a gravitational distortion, barely noticeable against the background radiation. Then it grew. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Energy readings went off the scale. Admiral Theros of the Combined Fleet, a veteran of 100 battles, watched the readings with growing concern. Whatever was happening out there was beyond anything in their database. He ordered the fleet to high alert and sent scout ships to investigate. They never made it. A rift opened in space, similar to the one in the human recordings, but somehow different. It pulsed with a light that seemed older than stars. Then, impossibly, ships began to emerge. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Their hulls seemed to be made of crystallized energy, shifting between solid and ethereal states. They moved without visible propulsion, defying the laws of physics that governed normal space travel. The lead ship transmitted a single message on all frequencies, in all known languages simultaneously. The silence in response was deafening. Every being who heard it felt their hearts skip. The message was simple, just 4 words that carried the weight of centuries. Humanity has come home. Ambassador Zix Theta was aboard the diplomatic vessel that made first contact. As her ship approached the crystalline fleet, she could see they numbered in the thousands. These weren't the ships that had left 500 years ago. They had been transformed by their time in null space, evolved into something beyond conventional understanding. The human fleet's command ship extended what appeared to be a bridge of pure light. Zixatheta and her delegation crossed it, entering a vessel that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The interior was beautiful and alien, surfaces that shifted like liquid mercury, corridors that folded in on themselves yet somehow led exactly where you needed to go. They were brought to what could only be described as a command center, though it bore no resemblance to any bridge Zixatheta had seen. Standing at its heart was a figure that was unmistakably human in origin, but transformed by centuries in null space. She was tall, her skin holding a subtle luminescence, her eyes reflecting depths of experience no normal being could comprehend. I am Commander Sarah Chen, descendant of those who entered the void. We have been waiting, watching, preparing. The human's voice carried harmonics that shouldn't exist, as if she was speaking from multiple timelines simultaneously. The Devourers are contained but not destroyed. They will never threaten this galaxy again, but we discovered something else in null space. Something worse is coming. The return of the Guardians, Commander Sarah Chen, stood before the assembled representatives of 17 different species, her transformed presence both beautiful and unsettling. The centuries in null space had changed humanity in ways that defied conventional evolution. They had adapted to an environment where thought and reality intertwined, where willpower could reshape matter itself. The Galactic Council had convened an emergency session aboard the ancient meeting station at the galaxy's center. Every major civilization sent their leaders. The Krelvani Empire, the Thurian Collective, the Bashari Federation, and even species that had been enemies for generations put aside their conflicts. The return of humanity had united them in wonder and now, in fear. Chen gestured, and the air itself became a display screen, showing images that hurt to comprehend. In null space, we discovered we weren't alone. The Devourers were just scouts, the vanguard of something far older and more terrible. We call them the Hollow Ones. They exist between realities, feeding not on life but on existence itself. They consume the very fabric of spacetime. Admiral Theros, his chitinous form rigid with tension, asked the question everyone was thinking. How long do we have? Based on our calculations, they will breach into normal space within 7 rotations. Chen's words sent a wave of despair through the assembly. But we didn't spend 5 centuries in hell just to watch this galaxy fall. Humanity has evolved. We've learned to fight on their level. But we cannot do it alone. What followed was the most remarkable military alliance in galactic history. The transformed humans shared technology that seemed like magic to the other species. Weapons that fired concentrated reality. Shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Drives that could fold space itself. But more than technology, they shared knowledge. They taught the galaxy to think differently, to see the universe not as fixed laws but as suggestions that could be bent by sufficient will and unity. The Krelvani, with their 4-armed efficiency, became master builders of the new hybrid vessels. The Thurians, collective minds that they were, excelled at coordinating the multidimensional battle strategies. The Bashari, with their natural resilience, could withstand the physical stress of reality-bending combat. Even the Kentar, suspicious and isolated for centuries, brought their unmatched precision in energy manipulation to the Alliance. Training began immediately. Human instructors, beings who had learned to exist partially outside normal space, taught regular soldiers to expand their consciousness. It was difficult, sometimes painful, always dangerous. Not everyone could handle the strain, but those who succeeded became something more than they had been. They became guardians of reality itself. Zixatheta found herself working closely with Commander Chen, learning not just tactics but philosophy. The humans had discovered that in null space, belief and determination could literally reshape reality. They had survived by refusing to accept extinction, by willing themselves to evolve rather than die. It was, Chen explained, humanity's oldest trait taken to its logical extreme. Pure, stubborn refusal to give up. On the fourth day, scouts reported the first signs of the breach. Reality itself was becoming unstable at the galactic rim. Stars flickered between existing and not existing. Entire systems phased in and out of spacetime. The Hollow Ones were coming. The combined fleet assembled at the breach point. 50,000 ships from 17 species, all modified with human null space technology. At the center, the human crystalline fleet formed the spearhead. They would bear the brunt of the assault, existing partially in both realities to bridge the gap for the others. Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, now joined by representatives from every allied species. Zixatheta stood at her right hand, having proven herself capable of brief ventures into null space consciousness. Around them, the merged crew worked in perfect harmony, their different physiologies and mindsets united by shared purpose. The breach opened like a wound in the universe. Through it came shapes that defied description, entities of unbeing that deleted reality wherever they touched. The Hollow Ones had no fixed form because form itself was anathema to them. They were absence-given hunger, voids that walked. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. Ships fired weapons that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously. The human fleet phased between dimensions, striking at the Hollow Ones in the spaces between reality. The Krelvani vessels became probability fortresses, existing in every possible position at once until they chose to collapse into a single point to fire. The Thurian collective consciousness networked the entire fleet, allowing instantaneous coordination across impossible distances. Bashari warriors in specially designed suits actually boarded the Hollow Ones, or rather, boarded the absence of them, fighting in a realm where up and down, before and after, had no meaning. Humanity led the charge with a fury born of 5 centuries of preparation. They had learned the enemy's nature, had become partially like them to understand them, and in understanding they had found the key to victory. The Hollow Ones fed on certainty, on fixed reality. The solution was chaos, controlled and directed. The fleet began firing paradox weapons, devices that created logical impossibilities in space-time. Squares that were simultaneously circles, effects that preceded their causes, matter that was energy that was thought. The Hollow Ones, beings of unbeing, could not process these contradictions. They began to fragment, their non-existence becoming unstable. Shen gave the order for the final gambit. Every human ship linked together, their transformed crews joining consciousness across null space. Together, they did something that should have been impossible. They reached through the breach and grasped the fundamental nature of the Hollow One's reality. And then, with the combined will of 10 million evolved humans, they simply decided it didn't exist. The backlash was tremendous. Half the human fleet ceased to exist for a moment, flickering between real and unreal. But when they stabilized, the Hollow Ones were gone. Not destroyed, not banished, but edited out of existence entirely. The breach began to close, reality reasserting itself like healing skin. But the victory came at a cost. A third of the combined fleet was gone, deleted or lost in the paradox storms. Thousands of beings from every species had sacrificed themselves to hold the line, and the human fleet, already transformed by centuries in null space, had pushed themselves even further from baseline humanity. They could no longer exist fully in normal space without effort. In the aftermath, as the survivors gathered at Sanctuary Station, a new accord was reached. Humanity would remain the guardians of the void, existing partially in null space to watch for future threats. In return, the galaxy would support them with resources, with companionship, with the promise that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. Commander Chen stood before the Galactic Council one last time. Her form was more energy than matter now, her voice echoing from multiple dimensions. We came to the stars as children, looking for our place in the universe. We found it not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our numbers. It was our refusal to let others fall when we could stand in their place. The galaxy had feared the wrong thing for centuries. They had built defenses against external threats, never realizing the greatest danger came from beyond reality itself. But they had also underestimated the power of sacrifice, of unity, of the simple human trait of protecting others even at ultimate cost. As the human fleet took their positions around the galaxy's edge, maintaining their eternal vigil, the other species began to truly understand what they had witnessed. Humanity hadn't just returned from extinction. They had transformed it into evolution, had turned certain death into transcendent life, had made their sacrifice into their strength. Monuments rose on 1,000 worlds, but they weren't monuments to the dead. They were promises to the living, reminders that somewhere in the space between spaces humanity stood guard. Children of every species learned the stories, not as history but as inspiration. The humans had shown them that no sacrifice was too great when it meant others could see tomorrow. Ambassador Zix Theta, now elderly by her species standards, often stood at the observation deck of Sanctuary Station, looking out at the stars. Sometimes, if she looked carefully, she could see them, flickers of crystalline light at the edge of perception, the human fleet maintaining their watch. They had given up their place in normal space to guard it from the spaces between. She remembered her last conversation with Commander Chen, before the woman had become too transformed to fully manifest in normal reality. Chen had smiled, a very human expression despite her transformed nature, and said something that Zix Theta would never forget. Every species asks why they exist, what their purpose is among the stars. Humanity found our answer. We exist to ensure others can keep asking that question. We are the shield against the dark, the guardians at the gate. And we wouldn't have it any other way. The galaxy celebrated not because the threat was over, but because they had learned the true meaning of unity. 17 species had become one force, had fought as one body, had won as one civilization. And at the heart of it all was humanity's example, their proof that no force in the universe was stronger than beings willing to sacrifice everything for strangers who had become family. As the years passed, the transformed humans became legend, then myth, then something approaching divinity in some cultures. But they remained, always watching, always protecting, always human in the ways that mattered most. They had left normal space as mortals and returned as something more. Not gods, but guardians. Not rulers, but protectors. The galaxy had rejoiced when humanity returned, because they brought more than military might. They brought hope, proof that even death could be transformed into something greater. They showed that evolution wasn't just biological, but spiritual, that a species could choose to become what the universe needed them to be. And in the vast spaces between stars, where reality grew thin and dangers lurked that normal minds couldn't comprehend, humanity stood watch. They had found their place in the universe at last, not as its children but as its guardians, and they would stand there forever if necessary because that was what humans did. They endured, they protected, they refused to let the light go out. The story of humanity's return became the foundation of a new galactic age. An age where species didn't just coexist but truly united, where the strong protected the weak not for gain but because it was right, where sacrifice was honored not with sadness but with determination to be worthy of it. And somewhere in null space, in the places between reality where thought and will shaped existence itself, 10 million human souls smiled. They had given everything and gained even more. They had become humanity's promise to the universe. As long as even one human existed anywhere in any form, the darkness would never win.